Hey, everybody, it's Camera Commando and my good buddy Airborne 80 coming back
Hey,
at you for episode 2 of our blog vlog. What's going on there, Airborne 80?
New Year's Eve, man. Getting ready to get crazy.
All right.
Got a nice sequins little skirt. I'm gonna put on some pumps, run around, make some noise later on.
Hell yeah. So, one of the topics we wanted to hit on was video games. And,
Oh, I notice our backgrounds are Call of Duty. That's weird.
ooh, look at that. How
What's that all
interesting.
about?
That's random.
Yeah,
How
very
random is
random.
that? Well, one of the things that we've chatted about in the past is the fact that, these video games are super addictive. Whoever created these storylines and graphics and products have done extensive research. They've made top of the line movie like cinematics. These things are just amazing. And, here we are, we're older guys and we enjoy playing these video games. And I cannot imagine how hard it must be for younger people to do their schoolwork, to have a part-time job, to get enough sleep at night when they have this kind of distraction around. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a different boat because I'm fully retired, so I enjoy the hell out of it. But he's right. I mean, I can't imagine trying to focus on schoolwork. I mean, if they had, back in our day, we were hitting little balls of light back and forth in the game Pong, and we thought that was as high tech as it was ever going to get.
Well, I remember.
So yeah, you look at this type of technology, and it's like I never cease to be mind blown by it, and very
It's a
fun.
whole nother level. I mean, I remember Pong, I remember Atari and Space Invaders and how the kids were addicted to that. I remember even as a kid, I had to go to the dispensary one time. It was like a little medical clinic as a military brat, where I was having what we know now is called is it tinnitus? Not tinnitus. I'm sorry. A carpal tunnel syndrome in my left hand, my left arm. And it was because back in the day, they had the video games with the joysticks and you control with the right hand and you would hit the fire button with your left hand. So we would play Space Invaders, me and my friends, and you're hitting that button a zillion times for hours. And so then the muscle gets wore out in your forearm and it starts to hurt. And I didn't know. Apparently, when I went to the doctor, he asked me what was going on. And I was about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. And I said, I don't know, my arm hurts. And he looked at me for a second. He goes, by any chance, do you have an Atari? And my eyes got big, and I'm like, yeah. How did you know? He goes, oh, he says, I've been seeing this a lot lately. A lot of these kids are coming in here with carpal tunnel syndrome because they're playing these video games. And my mom was like, wow, that's, she never imagined that. And even to this day, thinking back then, that how bad must it have been for multiple kids to have to go to the hospital with carpal tunnel. That just goes to show you how addictive these things are.
Yeah, well, if they keep improving the technology, which I'm sure they will, eventually, when you get shot in the leg on during a Call of Duty game, you're going to have to get a life flighted to the nearest hospital
No
with a
doubt.
tourniquet on.
No
I mean,
doubt.
it's getting pretty real.
Well, the psychologists participate in the development of these games, and I know you've heard of endorphin hits, and they've proven that when they give kids bonuses or coins or money or a little sound, you have a Pavlovian dog response to it. After a while, you get an endorphin hit, and it's the same kind of thing that you can get in any other kind of activity or sport, and it can become addictive. It's an actual drug, a hormone that's released into your brain that your body has a positive response to. So you literally get rewarded 75, 100 points for eliminating an opponent character, and you're basically you're performing a digital murder, a digital execution of another human being, and you're getting points for it. You're getting rewarded for that. And so I wonder sometimes, how does that affect a person's psyche? Does it make them desensitized to violence? What do you think?
Yeah, I've done a 180 on that. I used to think that was a cop out that when people would say video games are responsible for the mass shootings and violence. But the more you think about it, and now that I'm actually playing it, Graybeard Gamer, is the YouTube channel. Go check it out. I need some
Right on.
subscribers.
Subscribe, subscribe.
Yeah, I'm a camping fool. But anyways, now that I'm involved in it, um, I cannot seriously comprehend or think of any theory wherein the like you said, the amount of just wholesale slaughter going on per hour does not have a desensitizing effect um, on people. It has to, especially young people whose brains aren't fully developed, and who might people that have never seen somebody gunned down in an act of violence, and all they've done is killed 5,000 people a day on Call of Duty may not fully comprehend the gravity of such a situation. I mean, people don't. It's not. You don't respawn, man. I mean, it's done. When it's done, it's done.
So clarify for me. So you think that when they play the games for years or what have you, if they actually see somebody get killed for real, do you think that it'll affect them or they'll be less affected?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but what I do think is that they are necessarily just by the act of continual desensitization on the act of killing, whether digital or otherwise, that it's necessarily going to impact their own perception of life and the value of life. I mean, we could, well, someday we'll tell police stories, and we can go on about how many people I've seen wiped out for $10 in their wallet, or young people killing people because they looked at them wrong. This is back in the 80s and 90s in Los Angeles. So I mean, the young people typically don't understand the true value of life because they haven't lived long enough. Now you throw in, I mean, some of the voices I hear on these video games. You and I get used to talking to each other and people our age, and it's a good way for me to communicate with my kids that are grown and scattered all over the country. But every now and again, you get somebody that sounds very close to being an infant popping on, and you look and they're freaking getting the high score, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Gosh, I can't wait to get my 45 in gold." And the
Yeah.
guy's like the number one player there. You're like, how is that not gonna negatively affect somebody?
Yeah, they're gonna have some sort of spinal injury or neck problems from leaning over that video game for hours and hours and hours. I know we play
Yeah,
recreationally, and I tell you, I when I play, I really enjoy it. I get into it. But you're right. You hear once in a while in your party chats, you'll have grown-ups, and some people will be 20, 30, 50, 60 years old. And then sometimes you'll hear a little 7, 8-year-old kid come on there. And then you hear them cursing and
yeah,
yelling, and you're like, what is going where are their parents? Do their parents know that they're splattering people for hours and
yeah.
talking the way they do? Do they even care, or is it just a babysitter?
Yeah, I watched. I've got a video somebody sent me of. We got to be careful. I don't get too graphic, but one of the recent mass shooters that went into a mosque, and I think I shared that with you. Um, but that guy was a young guy, and he was running a live stream while he did it,
Jeez.
and it, I was struck by the fact that watching it from his perspective, and a lot of people commented on it where it was allowed to be shown, was literally I mean, this guy must have mowed down over 25 people.
That's
And
terrible.
it really looked like you were watching a Call of Duty game. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
because
just what
these
it
were
looked
like a
like.
GoPro
Yeah.
camera or something like that. I think I remember that.
Yeah. It was pretty brutal, man.
Oh, that's messed up.
So aside
Well,
from the physical negative effects, I just got to believe that it's doing a number on people whose brains are not fully developed. And, let's face it, not everybody's solid. And if somebody has a weakness, that, I mean, look, let's face it, people turn into serial killers based on a lot of different things.
yeah,
And
well,
I think this is more likely to play a part in developing a serial killer than it is to developing a good gardener or a botanist.
yeah. Well, definitely, they talk about firearm safety, and you see things in the video games that are not safe. Um, you know, I have been to recreational shooting ranges where I see people doing things that you might see in a video game, and trying to shoot their device, sideways like a gangster style, or standing the wrong way, not checking the barrel, not clearing the barrel of ammunition. I mean, they're doing everything wrong. And I'm like, well, it anybody can go to the store if they don't have a criminal record and purchase a firearm. But holy smokes, man, without training, some of these people are going to hurt themselves for sure because they don't know what they're doing, and it makes
Well,
me
you
worried
know,
sometimes.
the old army saying that you fight like you train, and life is a training ground to a certain degree. And when you look at these guys like me drive young people crazy, because when I say I'm a camper, and for those that don't play video games, a camper is somebody that finds a spot and stays there and shoots people as they come by, bad guys, so to speak. And the majority of players are into this running around the field like murder monkeys, gunning down as many people as they can, losing their life however many times. And they literally, it's a negative thing to be a camper. That's like calling somebody a bad word. You
Mhm.
effing camper, you effing camper. But the reason I bring that up is because you had talked about doing unsafe things in the games. Look, in real life, if you don't camp, you die. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not going to go out in the middle of a battlefield and start running in circles trying to shoot people as you run by them.
yeah,
The idea is to little bit of movement, as little as possible, and to get as many people before you get got, or hopefully not get got at all. So there's an unrealistic thing with the first person shooters, which is the higher number is the better player. Now, a guy like me, and this is my age, I'm sure, uh, I have just as much fun playing a round and getting 3 good kills as I probably have the same amount of dopamine released as the guy that got 250 kills.
yeah. Quality over quantity,
Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, military people know you got to have cover and concealment, and those two are not the same thing. Behind
yeah,
because you're behind a cardboard box, they can't see you, but it'll a round will go right through that. It's not safe. So these video gamers, these players, are learning bad habits, and if they ever or in on the street when something happens or in the military or a police officer, what have you, and their brain is used to doing something the wrong way.
mm,
Like you said, you fight like you train like you fight. It this idea that they're going to be able to run in the open and shoot somebody with a pistol from 100 yards or quick scope somebody, that's just ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
yeah,
And I think you're right. The the old timers who play these games, they get behind a rock or a tree and they just lay down and wait because that's real combat. That's real warfare. Every engagement in the military is usually an ambush, and it's never fair. And you're always outnumbered, and you're always outgunned, and it's always bad. It's never like the movies. It's never like the video game. It's not glorious. It doesn't have a cool soundtrack. You don't have endless ammo. You don't you can't run endlessly. You get tired, you get hot, you're thirsty, you're just miserable or cold. It's nighttime, you can't see. So the reality of it is different. The stories are amazing, but I don't think it's an accurate description of how these things are.
right. Yeah. What's the answer to that? I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, should it be age restricted, a little tighter, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, people should be free to do what they want to do, but at the same time, I think that maybe parents use these video games as babysitters, especially when they put their headphones on. These
Yeah.
parents don't know who their kids are talking to, and the things that they're hearing, and the trash talking that's going on can be very, very, you know, vulgar. And you
Yeah.
got little 5, 6 years old kids playing these games that they shouldn't be seeing this kind of stuff. But and we can't tell people what to do. But holy smokes,
Yeah. And
it's
if
no
you pull
wonder.
pull them off the games, and then they get just as traumatized watching today's commercials.
I will say that my own experience is if I play one of these games for half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it's like your brain gets focused in this little, your left and right limits, I guess. You're looking at the screen, you're focusing, your hand and eye coordination is going, you're doing things without thinking about it. Muscle memory. I think it uses different kind of thinking, different kind of brain waves, a lot of reactive stuff, instinctual stuff. But then when you come out of the game and then you're back in the real world and you got to think about actual things, grown up things, schedules, bills, the things that are not exciting in your life, you have to concentrate harder because the video games are instant stimulus, instant reaction, instant dopamine.
Yeah.
One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three. And real life doesn't happen that way. So you got to like sit down and focus because after these kids play a video game for 2 or 3 hours, do you think that you're going to get them to sit still and read a chapter out of a history book or a government book? or an art book or any kind of book for an hour or 2 hours, they're going to be bored out of their mind. They're not going to be able to focus on those words.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I was a terrible student, but I was a voracious reader, and I got proudly proclaimed that anything I know I taught myself, with very few exceptions. And in those days, that was our dopamine. I can remember I got the feeling of dopamine walking into the Hawthorne Public Library and the smell of books and pulling 5 books out of the history and the paranormal, like stacking them up and spending the day there reading. And man, that
Oh
was
yeah.
it literally was and now we, and myself included, I mean, when I'm playing a game, at the end of the game, when it upgrades a weapon and it clangs all the music and the sounds, I mean, it's exciting. It's like a casino,
Yeah.
feel like you won something. So, these designers are not stupid. They had
Definitely.
an intention and a goal, or a set of goals, and probably some goals that we're not aware of. Not that everything is nefarious and bad, but let's face it, you know, today's soldiers are more hand-eye coordinated when it comes to electronics than they were in my day. I mean, we were turning knobs and dials, and now people are flying drones and destroying life and property with the same movements that you and I are using on these video games.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they try to design them that way so that they're
Right.
already muscle memory, instinctual
Well, that's
kind
what
of.
I meant. Yeah, the military had its hand in the designing of this, and that's no secret. That's open source stuff, and there's a reason for it. I mean, there's different sides of the coin too, though, because this is where, like it or not, serial killer create or not, this is where the world's headed. The world's heading toward more technology, and when you look at just the exponential growth of technology and just in our lifetimes, or even in the last 15 years, is off the charts. I mean, when I talk about, or we talk about, holographic images, life-size holographic where you're in the battle. I mean, here, what is it? I just got the Quest VR headset,
Yeah.
and you've tried that, and you had that, and it's just amazing. I mean, and this is just the beginning. So you can imagine, that's one of the reasons I hope I don't, I hope I live a little bit longer, because I
So
in 2 years, that's going to be like a Model T.
it's funny you say that because I was just thinking about VR when you brought it up. And for the viewers, you all don't know, but I actually, based on Airborne 80's recommendation, I tried his set on, and then I was so blown away by it. I went out and bought a pair myself, and I had them for exactly one day.
Yeah.
The first time I used it, I got super seasick from the fast moving
Of course it's
aircraft simulation I was playing. And after a while, I got used to it. But then I started to see some of the other programs that are out there, and I started to think that I would become way too addicted to the games and the media that's available. And I said, you know what? I don't even want these things in my house because I don't think I'll have the mental control not to want to play with that thing. So
How many people though are that self-aware that they could regulate? You're not blowing
yeah.
smoke up your ass, but I've not known anybody that's so self-aware that they actually know their own limits when it comes to entertainment like that. That's
Well, I guess,
crazy.
I mean, everybody's different. I just know that, I have other responsibilities and I feel like I need to pay attention to the important things. And if I was retired and I was at
Yeah.
home and I had a lot of time, I think I would dabble a little more. But currently in my stage of life, I got some things I got to be working on and I'm taking care of. So I can't afford to lose more time right now doing those kind of things. But what I'm worried about is, this whole metaverse that
Yeah.
they have, that the technology is getting more amazing, the graphics and the backgrounds and the adventures and the games that they can play. I could easily see where, like the film Player One, where the virtual world is far more interesting and engaging than the real one, especially if you've got like a non exciting bullshit job somewhere and you got to, you're shoveling dirt or something every day, all day. That's not fun, but you can put on a headset and be a starfighter pilot or an
Yeah.
intergalactic explorer or an undersea aquanaut or something where you can engage and have friends on the other side of the planet that you have things in common with. I think that you can kind of, in a weird way, like the film Simone, or the other one called, I think, the That guy who plays the Joker, he had an AI girlfriend. I think it was called Her. I think people who are socially isolated might get very engaged and connected with the other people that they meet online, and those are not necessarily real relationships or things that may go anywhere, especially if they're on the other side of the planet. I mean, you can make friends, but when it comes to marriage and getting, having children and having a family unit, I think these games will hurt that, because rather than being out there meeting real people in the real world, you're going to be playing a video game somewhere and you're a Viking or some superhero playing with somebody you don't even know. And it's like you're
Yeah.
missing out on your actual life while you're playing your virtual one.
Yeah, I mean, and the yin and the yang of it, I mean, you can imagine what it must be like for a paraplegic who's, confined to a chair for the rest of their life or a
Yeah.
particular room. If you could throw on a VR headset, I mean,
Yeah.
you're opening the door to a whole another life, which we don't have time to get into this in this episode. But man, at some point we're going to talk about this. Simulation theory, because the more we get into this metaverse, the more you start to realize that the thought of our existence being some form of uh, simulation is not as far-fetched as it once was.
Yeah. I mean, there's been several films about it. Bruce Willis did one. Um, it wasn't called, it was like Avatar, similar to that, but as far as, you have your real persona you plug in, like the Matrix, and then you have a virtual persona, and they were actually simulated bodies living outside, and that everybody stayed at home. And when you interacted with people, it was like a better, younger, more attractive
Yeah.
version of yourself. It wasn't the real you with wrinkles and all. And so people, I don't know, it's just weird. People can get accustomed, or they seek perfection. They seek things that are better than what reality is. And I think you can miss out on the genuine piece, the humanity piece, that, we're no longer engaging as people.
Oh,
Everybody just kind of,
100%. Yeah.
how many
I
times have you
agree.
been in a restaurant and you got a whole family there and everybody's looking at their iPhone
Oh, yeah. That's depressing.
and they're sitting like 2 inches away from their brothers and sisters and they're not even talking,
Yeah.
you
Or at
know?
the dinner table, at home.
Yeah. Or heaven forbid, driving down the highway and somebody's driving and they're looking at their cell phone,
Yeah.
you know? But there's just too many distractions. And when you got the knowledge of the world in your hand, you can literally talk to anybody and see anything with just a few clicks. I mean, we're just way too distracted.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't always I don't say this for just because it's nice to oppose or be the opposition, but I like looking at all sides. And we don't know if there's no way for us to know whether this is going to benefit us or screw us over. You
Yeah.
just don't know. It's like the invention of the car. I mean, the horseless carriage was a great invention, but how many lives has it cost?
Yeah.
What's the environmental impact? I mean, so the jury's really still out on that one. So who knows? Is this going to bring us into the next phase of humanity, or is this going to be the end of us? There's no way to tell.
What they call the technotronic future, the
Yeah.
the connection between machine and man becoming the Ubermensch, or the I don't know, the ultimate man or woman, what have you.
Let me
But
ask you: are you familiar with the term Chat GPT?
no, what is that?
Yeah, you got to look that up, man. I just got that laid on me just this morning, and so I'm still looking into it. But it is,
Chat BTC.
yeah, it's Chat GPT.
I don't know
George
what that
Paul
is.
Tinkle. Yeah, you got to look that up, and I invite our listeners to look that up. It has to do with the newest, and this is going to be a really weak explanation because I'm new to the whole thing, but this is something that's happening now. It's already out and about in use now. But we most people are familiar with artificial intelligence, artistic programs where you put in words and it creates an artistic representation that
Hmm.
the AI developed. Well, this other chat thing is you basically you you could say here was the example given. You could say, "Hey, give me an essay about myself, and here's my name." And within 3 minutes, there'll be literally like a novel written about you, and it's all like true stuff based on everything that the AI was able to grab out of the metaverse and all of the internet. Every time you've ever posted something on Facebook, or you sent a text, anytime your voice was on the internet, it's grabbing pieces of that and will accurately be able to write a friggin' a memoir about you and who you are and what your impact on the world has been so far.
Oh, that's
They
crazy.
they've got students that can literally say, "Hey, I need a I need to have write a thesis on this topic," and it'll be a uniquely written thing based on everything that the AI was able to gather about you, your personality, and it's written the way you would write it. And in fact, the guy that was talking about it, who was a I can't I'll tell you his name. I'm sure you've heard of this guy. But he said that he did it, and he was hard pressed to even tell whether or not, if he didn't know he didn't write it, he would have thought he wrote it. And I'm talking about Jordan Peterson. So when you look it up, look up chat GPT and then look up Jordan Peterson, and you'll be able to hear him speaking on it. And if you don't recognize the name, you'll recognize him when you see him.
That's fascinating. I know they're
Yeah.
talking about, download your brain into a computer when you have,
Oh yeah.
these artificial bodies that they can download your consciousness. I believe that the AI is sophisticated enough to have a very close uh, sense of who a person is, and they can imitate that through the AI to where a computer may look, sound, and seem like a person, but I don't believe it'll be the real person. It's not the essence of who they are. It's
Well,
just
no,
a
it won't be the
photocopy
wrong.
of what you were.
Yeah, and look what got us here. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that you were saying, "Hey, man, what do you know about deep fakes?" You
Yeah.
see, and now look what we're talking about a deep fake on a whole nother level, and it hasn't been more than what, 2 years max.
Well, these corny
So
little avatars we're using right now,
yeah,
I mean, it's
these
a
are
simple version of the deep
yes,
fake. Wait till they have that sophisticated, I'm sure they do already,
yeah.
with the facial recognition where they can put what Tom Cruise's face on another guy and
Well,
you
it's
can't
been
tell.
done.
Yeah,
And listen, anything we're seeing and we can use is 50 years behind whatever the people that are in control have.
I'm sure.
That's not just like paranoia. That's just reality.
Yeah.
So, we've all said enough thing. Every phone call is recorded, not to get into conspiracies, but everything's recorded. Everything you've done on the internet. It's not it's not hard at all, if for a system to be able to grab your actual voice and make you say anything somebody wants you to say, whoever the
Yeah.
string puller is. And so you can do the same thing with all the video cameras that are positioned, speed cameras everywhere. They've got videos of us from every single angle. And I'm sure they could show a video of me standing on a platform, singing, a song I've never sung before, and
Yeah.
it would look just like me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And that's the thing too, when people see in the future, when they see or hear something, they're gonna have to take it with a grain of salt because there's a good chance that somebody has manipulated the data.
Yeah.
So, but for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, the whole
Exciting
conversation
times.
about AI and where it's going, and these video games, I think it's partially it's conditioning, but I think it's ruining the human condition, that it's affecting families, it's affecting relationships. I know that men and women are not getting along like they used to. The hypergamy, the third wave feminism, and there's a whole bunch of
The
episodes that we can have
Yeah,
on
then you
MagTow,
throw in the robotic sex dolls that are very soon to be walking around and be,
Blade Runner.
completely mobile
Yeah,
and self-articulating, self-thinking. And, when you got a when the woman of your dreams is a robot that has dinner ready for you and calls you, king, what's that going to do to relationships? What's that
yeah.
going to do to population? And maybe
Forget
that's
about
the
it.
goal. Maybe that's part of the goal. Who knows?
Well, it seems like men are becoming sterile, and
I'll take an
and
Asian one, thank you.
yeah, the families are just disintegrating all over the place. So
Yeah,
we got problems as a
sure.
world, with just relationships and human interactions, and these distractions, these video games and phones just make it worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think that's a good stopping point right there on this topic, because we could go down like 15 different rabbit holes on this one.
Yeah, for
But it is
sure.
also New Year's, and we got some partying to do. So everybody, please take notice of the logo at the top of the screen there, the YouTube channel, Graybeard Gamer. Please subscribe to his channel.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a new channel, so don't expect much, but depending on how many people I get, I'll do
yeah,
more.
it's growing, and it's pretty hilarious, some of the stuff that's going on there. And then of course, you can find me on Camera Commando on Facebook, not Facebook, YouTube, and other social media outlets. If you just type in Camera Commando, you'll find me.
I want to
But
wish everybody a happy new year and safe new year, and we'll never forget we're all in this together. So don't give up hope, no matter how bad things get. There's always another side. Just got to
yeah,
keep moving, keep breathing.
yeah, everybody be good. Don't drink and drive. Get a designated driver, and be safe out there. We'll talk to y'all soon.
All right,
Take care.
guys.
Camera
Airborne
Commando,
out
Airborne 80, out.
all the way.